glad I told you so you could remind me.
If that's what we're here for.
I'd like to call the regular City Council meeting to order for Thursday, December 21st, 2023. If you'd all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everyone in the audience here and those online. First thing up, is there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
No, sir.
Seeing none, I'll move to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. The first item up we have this evening is the oath of office for our recently elected Councilmember Tammy Klimple.
I, Tammy Klimple, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state of Minnesota, and will faithfully discharge the duties of a member of the City Council for the City of Roseville, in the County of Dakota, in the state of Minnesota, to the best of my judgment and abilities, so help me God.
And welcome to your seat back. That completes presentations, proclamations, and acknowledgements. Next item up is item 4, response to public comment. All right. As I understand, we do not have any responses this evening. All questions have been responded to previously.
And expanded upon during the Jimnist presentation. Yep.
All right, thank you. That completes item 4. Item 5, public comment this evening. If anyone wishes to speak on the subject in our agenda, specifically on Jimnist, please wait until that time. If you have a comment or something prior that isn't related to that, you may come forward now before the council. State your name and address and your question or comment.
Jason Moore, 3685, 148th Street West. Greetings, elected officials, paid city staff, and members of the community. I come before you tonight, the darkest day of the year, the winter solstice, with 3 comments and critiques. Now, the following are solely my opinions and how I view it through my eyes. On public engagement, you as elected officials, some have stated they want community engagement. They enjoy the involvement and welcome the respectful back and forth discussion. Sorry. How is that going? With the new imposed limitations that have been set, I'm only afforded 3 minutes. And as of the last meeting, 15 minutes for all public comment. This does not seem fair or adequate depending on various circumstances. Second, on interactions with paid city staff, these are just my interactions. From fire to police, let me start over. Of all my interactions have been positive and well received. From fire to police, parks and recs, maintaining the trails in Carroll's Woods. I also want to recognize the city clerk that helped guide a person through filing for the process of becoming a candidate on the election ballot. Lastly, to the plowers who proved to be exceptional year after year. However, there's a single individual on the paid city staff who is questionable. This is just my opinion. And I'd refer to him as like a grime or worm tongue.
Excuse me, could you repeat that? What did you say?
I said I would refer to him as a grime or worm tongue.
Grimer,
Worm.
word, tongue? Thank you.
Sorry. And third, the city's process of vetting and approving proposed process is handled. From what I've personally witnessed and what I've viewed in the city's YouTube channel for over 4 years, all seem to have a functioning process. It seems fair in all aspects except for morality. There seems to be no condition to whether a project is morally sound, valid, or ethical. It seems 95% of the projects, whether get approved. You guys approve them? Whether any of those people show up to voice dissent against it. I want to live in a city that prioritizes morality and ethics in its decision-making of the potential ramifications of those proposed projects. I don't want businesses, companies, institutions, or entities that have a low moral and ethical values in my city. Now, how do we determine or measure a gauge of morals and ethics? Well, the Boy Scouts of America's oath and their 12 laws seem to be a minimum standard to begin with. They can easily be found online. Thank you for your time. I will listen to your responses on the replay tonight or in the next meeting, if said responses are given. Enjoy your Yule, your Christmas, and have a Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to come before council?
Hi, so my name is Karen Miller, and I just want to ask a clarifying question. So I know there are citizens here who have comments they'd like to make or concerns about the Jimnist LLC proposal. Are they supposed to do that when it comes up in the agenda, or is now the best opportunity for that?
As I had noted in the opening comments for the public comment, they will come later.
Later.
When the actual
Okay.
agenda item comes forward.
Thank you so much for clarifying. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Good evening. My name's Raul Estrada. My address is 8302 143rd Street West, Apple Valley. Now, there's a couple things I wanted to point to address. One of them, the last time I was in this room, there was mention of somebody had a concern about violence because of a word being used called a revolution. Now, I want to point out to everybody in this room that never in the history of America, with the exception of a few instances, has revolution and violence ever been synonymous. We can go through the past decade, the last century, and we look at revolutionaries like Malcolm X, Huey Newton, Martin Luther King, and even Nelson Mandela. Each and every one of them encouraged their citizens to revolt, push back, and take control of a government they thought went awry. When somebody joins and conjoins those two words, they are simply weaponizing one word to dissuade and discourage in a socialist manner to incite fear and guilt to prevent you from pushing back. It's written directly into the Constitution that you should, that you can and should. So everybody in this room that's coming to oppose or support, I encourage you to first research the Constitution and exercise your right and never, ever let anybody dissuade you from your right as an American citizen. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close public comments this evening. That completes item number 5. We'll move on to consent agenda. Item 6A through O. These include bill listings, minutes from our December 5th work session and regular meeting, approval of city council travel, 2004 schedule of rates and fees, sick leave policy and earned safe and sick time policy to align with the state law that's going in effect on January 1st, authorization of the initial items for the 2024 street improvement program, the Tree City USA recertification, 2024-2033 capital improvement plan, public purpose expenditure policy, the UMOR study area AUAR update 2023, request by US Home LLC for approval of the Tullamore 4th additional final plat, authorizing the 2024 to 2025 union and non-union benefits for staff, and recognizing our new fighters off probation. Any council members wish to pull any items for further discussion?
I wish to pull items G, K, and O.
G, K, and O. Any others?
I had the same.
Same? Okay.
Okay.
Same for K, K. And K is also on my list, so.
Mayor, could I clarify, just for your announcement's sake, you had jumped over item N, the Fire Relief Association, but just making sure that's on your,
Yep, it is.
council's aware you got item N. Okay, thank you.
And item on Fire Relief Association benefit interest rate. Thank you for that addition. So item 6A through O with G, K, and O removed for further discussion. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
I will second.
Motion been made and second. Consent agenda. Roll, please.
Essler?
Aye.
Limple?
Aye.
Weisenthal?
Aye.
Tyson?
Aye.
Brusky?
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. First item, additional item up is item G. And where are we going with this? Ms. Kimple.
Yes, this is regarding the 2024 street improvement program, and so I know that there was some discussion out there, maybe some confusion in the community about the communication process for that in that neighborhood. So I was wondering if city staff could expound on what kind of advanced communication of the neighborhood meeting took place, what kind of turnout there was at the meeting, and what kind of post-meeting communication maybe took place.
Sure, I'll grab that. Council members, as you said, this is for the planned 2024 street improvement project area, which is generally between 151st Street, 155th Street to north to south, and then Chippendale Avenue and Shannon Parkway east to west, a grouping of streets in that area. The initial step in the process was a open house style meeting where residents that are in the affected area were mailed a postcard ahead of a meeting that was held earlier in the month. We did have a relatively low turnout to that, and recognizing that, we did some follow-up direct mailings again with information that was available from the meeting itself. We also have a website set up with all of that same information, and that will continue to be populated as we work our way through the rest of the process. So this is just kind of the beginning of that public engagement phase of things. We'll be coming back to you in about a month with a more detailed report, and there will be a public hearing for the project at that time. And as you know, we carry on our public information into the construction phase 2 with weekly flyers of information updating residents on what's happening in their project area.
Great. And again, any resident could go find information on this project on the city website?
That's correct. Yep, it's under the 2024 Street Improvements Program.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
As a follow-up, the actions that we're taking tonight are accepting the feasibility reports, which I think all council members received a copy of that, in addition to calling for the public hearing that you had mentioned, and then authorizing the preparations of plans and specifications. One item I was curious about as I read through this is it's a little different than just a normal, or what I would consider a normal street overlay project. There's mention in here of 2 particular streets where there are no houses on that are, no driveways on those. with a potential closure. And I think it's important to at least call that out. Residents are aware of that. Where, if they're just learning about this, are they able to provide that input if they're interested in seeing those two areas closed off? I know there's some discussion of allowing a trail through there, maybe it's some rain gardens, other things are being discussed, something that maybe they'd like to provide input on.
Yeah, thanks for your question, Mayor. This is a couple sets of ideas for consideration. Again, we're still working through the project development phase on this, and the input from the neighborhood is essential to that. These are some ideas that were explored at the onset, and they may have some promise if we continue to hear support for them. But essentially, it would result in a couple one-block segments of streets that don't appear to have a great deal of need for interconnectivity and transportation purposes. We're curious whether the neighborhood might enjoy a different look or feel there, and we could develop a win-win type of solution as part of the project with eliminating street surfaces but replacing them with trail connections between blocks. So that's on the table. If folks in the neighborhood are interested in learning more details about that concept or providing feedback on it, they can, of course, contact our engineering staff directly. We also, in the mailings that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, there were specific email contacts listed in the letters and the flyers that were sent out. So many different ways that residents within this neighborhood are able to reach out and engage with city staff to have their comments and concerns heard by us.
Would that also include at the public hearing then?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments from council? All right, you want to proceed with the three motions?
All right, I will move to pass 3 items related to the 2024 Street Improvement Project, City Project 2024-01, as follows. 1, accept the feasibility report. 2, call the public hearing on improvements. And 3, authorize the preparation of plans and specifications.
Second.
I have a motion by Klimpel, second by Tyson. Roll, please.
Klimpel. Aye. Weisenseld.
Aye.
Tyson.
Aye.
Ruski. Aye. Essler.
Aye.
That completes item 6G. 5-0. Next item up. What do we got? 6. Where did I pull up here? Just give me a moment. 6K. Umore Study Area AUAR update. Looking to
So,
check.
yeah, I can provide a brief update on that ahead of council action tonight. The AUAR update that was drafted earlier this year was published in the EQB Monitor. That's the Environmental Quality Board's publication to allow agencies to review and provide comment on environmental reviews. Additionally, it was sent out directly to 22 agencies on December 5th for their review. Those agencies include the Minnesota Department of Health, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, the Board of Water and Soil Resources, the Indian Affairs Council, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and many others. The review period closed on December 19th, and following that, the city did receive 4 comments from the DNR, the Met Council, the Vermilion Watershed District, and Dakota County. So the comments provided by them were noted. The AUAR update was updated, and in most cases, mitigation measures were added or updated, or the text of the AUAR update document was amended, and that was provided to council ahead of the meeting tonight for review. I'm happy to answer any questions council members may have.
Council, any questions or comments? Visibility that we've received that. As I understand, that was a planning commission item for us.
Correct. The Planning Commission added a condition of approval to the recommendation to investigate the status of the AUAR update. And following that meeting and at the advice of the city's attorney, staff decided to get that published and reviewed ahead of tonight's action.
All right, looking left, right, anything? Otherwise, I'll go ahead and move the motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the adoption of the UMOR Alternative Urban Area-Wide Review, known as AUAR Update 2023.
Go ahead.
I'll second.
Motion by Weisenseld, second by Fresky. Roll, please.
Weisenthal.
Aye.
Tyson.
Aye.
Fresky. Aye. Essler.
Aye.
Limpel. Aye.
Item 6K passes 5-0. And we move on to item 6O. I could have Chief come forward, recognizing new firefighters off probation.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I stand before you tonight to seek approval to get our 3 latest firefighters off of probationary status and back onto regular status. These 3 have represented the city of Rosemount at a very high level this past 2 years, completing over 200 hours of training to get at a state certification level that would allow them to apply for a full-time job anywhere in the state of Minnesota. This included training Firefighter 1, Firefighter 2, hazmat operations, and their medical training. And as you know, they're volunteers. They do this above and beyond their family duties at home, kids, sports, family events. They miss a tremendous amount of family time these first couple of years on the fire department. We make that very clear when we hire them. We lose about, as you know, 30% of every group we hire. And these 3 stuck it out. They're like a couple of wild horses right now. They're ready to go. We have trained them internally to our standards and procedures as well, and they're ready to rock. So with your approval tonight, we will move them to regular status tonight.
And did you
Stand
want
for
to
questions.
announce their names?
Oh, sorry. My bad. I got a little excited. Firefighter Anthony Osculin, Firefighter James Hansen, and Firefighter Noah Ballars.
Great.
Very cool.
Thank you. Want to move the motion?
I will move to recognize the new firefighters coming off probation.
Second.
Motion by Klimpel, second by Essler. Roll, please.
Tyson.
Aye.
Fresky. Aye. Essler.
Aye.
Limpel. Aye. Weisenthal.
Aye. That completes item
you.
6O from the consent agenda, 5O, and completes all items related to the consent agenda. With that, we'll move to item 7, public hearings, which we have none this evening, unfinished business 8, which we have none, and new business item 9A. First item up, request by CA Gear for approval of rezoning, a major amendment to the custom apparel plan unit development agreement and a conditional use permit to construct a 7,400 square foot addition onto the existing sportswear manufacturing and athletic training facility. And looking to, who's got this tonight? There we go.
Hogan will do this presentation tonight.
Ms. Hogan.
One second.
All right, so this item tonight is a request by Custom Apparel, Inc. for approvals to construct an addition onto the existing sportswear manufacturing and athletic training facility. So a little bit of a summary of the request. So the applicant is requesting the following approvals: to construct a 7,400 square foot addition onto the existing 13,552 square foot sportswear manufacturing and athletic training facility. So they are asking for a rezoning of the site from BP PUD, Business Park Plan Unit Development, to BP C4 PUD, which would be Business Park / General Commercial Plan Unit Development, and then also a major amendment to the Custom Apparel Plan Unit Development Agreement, and then also a conditional use permit for the operation of an outdoor dining area for 11 or more seats. So a little bit of background on site location. So the site is located approximately 3/4 of a mile south of County Road 42, and then also directly west of Highway 3, and then immediately north of Canada Circle. The site is a total of 3.75 acres. The city does own the public works site directly to the northwest of the area, and then also the small outlots to the north of the site as well. So here is a map of the proposed zoning amendment. So you can see on the left-hand side, currently that site is zoned that BP PUD, which that hash mark shows that planning development area. And then the proposed zoning change would allow for that dual business park and C4 PUD dual zoning. So the uses, or changing it to C4, would allow for the proposed use to be allowed within the expansion area. And then here's a site plan of the proposed expansion. So the building expansion will be located on the western side of the existing building, which you can see around this cursor area. The expansion will include a tap house, ground floor patio area, golf simulator, lounge area, and an outdoor roof patio as well. The site will continue to be accessed from the existing access driveway off of Canada Circle, which you can see located off of Canada Circle. Also, an additional 37 parking stalls will be added to the site to allow for that expansion and that additional seating within that patio and tap room area. Then here's this landscape plan that was provided. So the landscape plan was originally reviewed back in 2018 with the original construction of the building. During that initial review period, foundation plantings are required with this expansion. The updated landscape plan does show 90 foundation plantings along with the proposed expansion, which meets that requirement with the expansion. Then here is the ground floor plan. So you can see on the left-hand side, that's where that expansion area is going to be located. So they do have that ground floor outdoor patio, and then also that tap house seating area, and then also car trading area in the back as well. And then this second photo is going to be the second floor, which you can see that rooftop patio right there, and as well as simulators and lounge area for those golf simulators. Then here are elevations of the site. So the proposed expansion will have that consistent look with the existing building as well. They do plan to include fiber cement wood grain siding panels, and then also have the pre-finished ribbed metal panels as an accent. As you can see, it does coincide with what is existing. And then there's 4 recommended motions in front of the City Council today. So motion 1 will be to adopt an ordinance amending Ordinance B, City of Rosemount zoning ordinance to change the zoning of the site from BP PUD to BPC4 PUD. Second motion will to adopt a resolution approving the major amendment to the custom apparel plan unit development agreement. Motion 3 will be to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute a major amendment to the custom apparel plan unit development agreement. And then the last motion will be to adopt a resolution approving a conditional use permit for custom apparel, allowing operation of an outdoor seating and dining area for 11 or more seats, subject to the conditions within that resolution. But I can take any questions from the council at this time.
Floor is open to council. Any questions? Is the applicant here this evening?
The applicant is here, yes.
Maybe you can come forward.
Yeah.
Hello, my name's Nate Bry, 13402 Villa Ave.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Just an opportunity, I think, to any questions from council or comments?
I don't have questions, but I have comments. First of all, CA Gear, your organization, has been a real asset to the community.
Thank you.
It's these type of businesses that really, really promote and generate that hometown feel that we're striving so hard for. So thank you for, opening your business in the community, and it's great to have businesses like you. And also, most specifically, I know our residents, a lot of our residents, and including me, are really excited about that outdoor rooftop patio. I know a lot of residents, those are the kind of things, again, it keeps people in Rosemount. It keeps people from leaving to have to go to neighboring communities, to Egan and Apple Valley and Lakeville, and this is another opportunity to keep them local. So thanks for making the investment and doing this. We couldn't be more thrilled to have you in our community.
No problem, and I concur.
Thank you.
Yep. I also wanted to echo some of that same enthusiasm and excitement. As small business owners ourselves, we know that this is not something you do lightly, and thank you for choosing Rosemount to invest in with your business, and it's great to see you thrive and grow, and it was a great presentation at Planning Commission, and we really look forward to visiting the expanded establishment.
Perfect. I bleed blue and gold, by the way.
Yeah.
As do we.
And the only thing I would add to that is that we've seen your partnership with the high school and the youth associations and all the different things that you do from that level. So to bring something like this to the adult side of things, it's an atmosphere that I think we're really welcoming here. So thank you.
I appreciate it.
I have nothing additional to add except to say thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
And just something a little more on the future side of things. So what's your anticipation with, assuming probably a positive recommended action here? What's your timing for the expansion?
Hopefully shovel in ground by spring pending, no unforeseen circumstances.
And patio access by,
Well, I guess it probably wouldn't be done until the winter, so it would probably be, 2025 by the time we can get outside and.
might have to
We'll
wait a
take
little
it.
bit.
Take it. We'll take it.
And then just for me, I believe this has been a goal to see a rooftop amenity in the community, and certainly it's a great story, having, as I understand, you have attended Rosemont High School and
Yep.
reinvesting in the community, so
Yep.
it's great to see that. So with that, no other further questions or comments. Who would like to start moving the motions? They should be all done separately.
I can do one. I'll make a motion to adopt an ordinance amending ordinance B, City of Rosemount zoning ordinance to change the zoning of the site from BPPUD, Business Park Planned Unit Development, to BP/C4 PUD, which is Business Park General Commercial Planned Unit Development.
I'll second.
Motion by Essler, second by Klimpel. Roll, please.
Fresky? Aye. Essler?
Aye.
Klimpel?
Aye.
Weisenthal?
Aye.
Tyson?
Aye.
Motion number 2.
I'll move to adopt a resolution approving the major amendment to the Custom Apparel Planned Unit Development Agreement.
I'll second.
Motion by Klimpel, second by Fresky. Roll, please.
Essler?
Aye.
Klimpel?
Aye.
Weisenthal?
Aye.
Tyson?
Aye.
Fresky? Aye.
Motion 3.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor and the city clerk to execute a major amendment to the Custom Apparel Planned Unit Development Agreement.
Second.
Motion by Tyson, second by Essler. Roll, please.
Klimpel?
Aye.
Weisenthal?
Aye.
Tyson?
Aye.
Fresky? Aye. Essler?
Aye.
And motion number 4.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution approving a conditional use permit for custom apparel, allowing operation of outdoor seating or dining area for 11 or more seats, subject to conditions.
Second.
Motion by Fresky, second by Tyson. Roll, please.
Weisenthal?
Aye.
Tyson?
Aye.
Fresky? Aye. Essler?
Aye.
Klimpel?
Aye.
And we have 5-0 on each of the 4 motions. Congratulations and good luck going forward.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
That completes item number 9A. Next item up is 9B, Jimnist LLC. Just for those in the audience, we're going to go through a slight presentation. I believe we have the applicant's representative, Kimberly Horn, here tonight, a staff presentation. Council will, the floor will be open for council to ask questions. Contrary to regular or normal process, I will be opening up the public comment period for residents wishing to speak on this. It'll return back to council for final comments, and then we will vote on the action.
Thank you, Mayor. As you said, this is a request by Jimnist LLC for two requests, actually, a final site and building plan approval as part of the Project Bigfoot planned unit development and a plat approval to subdivide the parcel from the greater Umore Park area. So just a little bit of a summary of that request. The final site and building plan is the second of the 2-step process for planned unit developments. The first being a master development plan. For this site, that master development plan was approved by the City Council in March of 2023. A lot of times we'll see the master development plan come through concurrently with a final site and building plan, but that's not always the case, such as this one. It was to allow the applicant to design their final site and building plan using the parameters set forth by the master development plan that was approved in March of this year. The Planning Commission reviewed this request and recommended approval at its meeting on March 28th. Additionally, the request for a preliminary and final plat approval would subdivide the parcel from Umore Park land and allow the land to be conveyed to the applicant from the University of Minnesota. The proposed plat would also include some right-of-way for improvements to Audrey Avenue and Blaine Avenue, as well as drainage and utility easements and parcels for a substation and future water tower. The site is located immediately east of Dakota County Technical College. Further east would be Vicks Crane, and even further Highway 52 running north and south. Immediately north of the site is County Road 42, and then, as I said, west of it is Dakota County Technical, and that's what would bring you to the intersection of Akron Avenue and County Road 42. Also note Amber Fields being constructed. This was the first private development within the Umore Park area, and that was approved in 2021. So Umore Park itself is comprised of several thousand acres of land. It straddles the boundary between Rosemount and Empire at County Road 46. The proposed development would be in the northeast corner of the site as shown here on this aerial map. And I want to provide just a very brief background on Umore Park. The U.S. federal government acquired the land to build an ordnance or ammunition plant during World War II to produce smokeless gunpowder. It never actually made it to full build-out and was shuttered in 1945 at the end of World War II. So title to the 8,000 acres of land that include the current Umore Park as well as Vermilion Highlands to the south was transferred to the University of Minnesota in 1947 and 48. And it was in 2008, after years of using the site for agricultural research, that the university developed the 2008 Umore Park concept plan that was kind of their idea of what a sustainable modern community could be. In 2015, though, the university did pivot to a more market-driven approach to selling off the land for development. The first, a good sign of that would be the sale of 435 acres to Maplewood Development, with a pretty traditional suburban-style community being built over there. Not so much the forward-thinking community shown on the image before you. Also, in 2017, the university, under the supervision of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, conducted a remedial investigation to identify areas of contamination within the former Gopher Ordnance Works site. On the map before you, the red dots, they indicate areas where contamination exceeds residential soil standards of at least one chemical. The yellow dots show where samples were taken that did not exceed those residential standards, which, as you can imagine, are the most stringent. You don't want people living on contaminated soil or tromping around in their yards. Also, the investigation did find no groundwater contamination. It was using this information that the university marketed the land for Amber Fields, as well as the subject parcel for the Jimnist LLC proposal, and land being marketed by Opus using this information as these sites were free of contamination. So present-day conditions on the site, it's currently has been used for agricultural purposes. It contains a number of stands of wooded areas that the applicant will be retaining for the most part in these outer edges of the site, just to offer some screening and buffer from adjacent properties. The east and west sides are Blaine Avenue and Audrey Avenue, and those will be seeing some improvements with the project, which I will highlight briefly in the near future here. With regards to the plat, it would separate the subject parcel from the greater Umore Park property. It would create 4 new parcels, one large main parcel that would house or contain the main use on the site. There's 2 smaller parcels, one for a future substation owned by XL Energy and a future water tower in the northeast corner of the site. And then lastly, one smaller parcel that's just a remnant from a realignment of Audrey Avenue that would be shifted to the east at its intersection with County Road 42. Staff does note that that parcel is named on the proposed plat as a buildable lot. It should be renamed as an outlot as it doesn't meet the minimum standards for a parcel in the business park district. Staff is also recommending a drainage and utility easement over a wetland in the north central portion of the site. So here's the proposed plat. You can see the main parcel is this central one, Lot 1, Block 1. Additionally, Lot 2, Block 1, and Lot 3, Block 1 would house the substation in the southeast and the future water tower in the northeast. And then in the northwest corner with the realignment of Audrey Avenue here, this one should be renamed to an outlot as it is too small to be considered a buildable lot in that zoning district. The wetland in question is in this north central area, and staff is also recommending that that get included in a drainage and utility easement over the wetland itself and the required buffer. So here is kind of an architectural rendering of the site as it would be built by the applicant. The main features being the two main function buildings housing servers and other technological equipment. Also, there's a support building that would hold materials and equipment for use on the site and an office area. Other structures include a guardhouse in the southeast corner and then two communication towers northwest and southeast of the two main function buildings. Each building has its own mechanical yard, which has basically large air conditioning units, as well as one generator per structure. Main entry into the site would be from Blaine Avenue, where you would go through and approach the guardhouse here. There will be a secondary access from Audrey Avenue with a locked gate here for use in emergencies. And the two substations, one owned by XL Energy Center and then the other owned by the applicant, are in the southeast corner of the site. And also just note that the stormwater is being managed on site, and that's these large green areas that kind of surround the site. To give the council an idea of setbacks, the standard setbacks in the business park zoning district are 30 feet from the front and 10 feet from the sides. The applicant here is providing 900 feet from County Road 42, 955 feet from the nearest building to Blaine Avenue, unless you count the guardhouse, which is about 600 feet away. The closest mechanical yard here from the northwest corner of the site, which is where the majority of residential structures are located, is at least 1,500 feet from that corner of the site itself. The two main function buildings are pretty long, low, nondescript buildings. They'll be comprised of formed metal panels and precast architectural concrete. The support building, which is shown on the map here that I had just mentioned, will be more of a metal panel wall system. This will be similar to what you see being used on the new Frana roof truss plant down near 46 and Highway 3. And then the office building here will have formed metal wall panels that are above the windows, and then some vertical precast architectural concrete elements. And that one is in the northeast of the four main buildings on the site. And then lastly, the 260 square foot guardhouse will have metal composite material and then security glazed curtain walls to allow visibility and security for the guards in that building. The applicant's landscape plan features many new trees being planted on site. The cross-hatched areas shown here indicate wooded areas that will remain. So the applicant's landscape plan is really to augment those wooded areas with additional plantings to improve the screening from any public rights of way. And then also the applicant would be planting some foundation plantings in the more visible, and when I say visible, I mean from the parking lot areas and entries of the buildings. These would be shrubs and bushes. The security fence being built around the site is 10 feet in height, constructed of wire mesh painted black that's non-climbable, and it would be a minimum of 150 feet from the nearest property line. That point is on the south near one of the substations. So as I said, there's a couple street improvements involved with this project. The applicant would be responsible for these improvements to Audrey and Blaine Avenues, as well as some improvements to County Road 42. The biggest change would be the realignment of the Audrey Avenue intersection with County Road 42. It's shifted east a little bit to avoid impacting the residents that's on the north side of 42, so it'll kind of slip by that house there when Audrey is extended to the north. Another big change would be a temporary signal light that'll be installed at Blaine and 42, and that's to accommodate the construction traffic. Anticipated generation of 241 trips in the AM peak hour, 367 trips in the PM, but 610 between 6 and 7 AM. Additional improvements are a 12-inch water main in Audrey and a 16-inch water main in Blaine. And these depictions here show what those improvements would look like. Also note, Audrey Avenue will have a bituminous trail on the west side and a 5-foot concrete sidewalk on the east side. That is a requirement of the university for any development within Umore Park. Grading will be provided along Blaine Avenue and 42 for future trails. They won't be constructed, but the ground will be prepared for them when they get installed at some point in the future. Staff did hold a open house ahead of the Planning Commission meeting, and some of the concerns heard during the open house and also at the public hearing related to water usage and electrical needs. The city has anticipated the amount of water that would be used, and with conversations with the applicant, their actual water usage would be likely lower than what many people expect from a data center, on par with a few sit-down restaurants or half of 100-room hotel. Some questions about EMF radiation came up. Basically, the level of radiation created by the 115 kilovolt transmission line coming into the site is below that level that really shows some impacts, which would be a 400 kilovolt line. Power lines can be 1,500 kilovolts, so 115, while a larger transmission line is not anywhere close to the largest that they come. Noise, that was another question, and particularly low frequency noise, and less so about the ongoing noise from generators. An acoustic engineering firm did provide or conduct a noise study, and the applicant did provide some highlights from that. Specifically, they investigated the 1/3 band data. That's kind of used for environment and noise control applications, and that verified the absence of those concerns because of the equipment used does not contain those low-frequency pure tones that would be associated with disruption to wildlife. So as I said, the Planning Commission held their hearing, held a public hearing during their November 28th meeting. They did vote unanimously to recommend approval by the council for both the final site and building plan, as well as the preliminary and final plats, with that addition of a recommendation to investigate the status of the AUAR update that council recently adopted. So there's 4 motions, or 4 actions council has to take for approval. The first being approval of the plat, the second being approval of the subdivision agreement, as well as some water and wastewater agreements. The third is a motion to adopt a resolution accepting right-of-way for the Audrey Avenue and Blaine Avenue portions that do not fall within the plat area, so basically the west side of Audrey Avenue and the east side of Blaine Avenue. And then lastly, a motion to adopt a resolution approving the final site and building plan for the Project Bigfoot planned unit development. All of these subject to conditions. So, I'm happy to ask any questions. As Mayor, you said, the applicant is present and it would be happy to provide some context to council if you would prefer to hear from them first.
Yeah, why don't come up, and then if we have any questions, we can tag team between the both of you. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Trish C. I'm an engineer with Kimley Horn and Associates. So we are representative to Bigfoot and Jimnist LLC. So first of all, thank you. Thank you for all your time throughout this process and tonight. Bigfoot is excited to be a part of the community of Rosemount. I am mainly here on behalf of them to help respond to any questions, but I do want to acknowledge that there are a number of narratives floating around. And the facts are that there has been a tremendous amount of diligence, studies, interactions with over a dozen regional, state, and federal agencies. I've seen it. I've been a part of it. The rigor has been very intense. So in addition to hearing with all the standard processes and regulations, and the fact that the state has also been trying to attract development like this project goes above and beyond in many ways. Things like site development with robust landscaping and buffers, sustainable buildings, low water use, renewable energy, public improvements, low impact to public services, and there'll be a bunch more announced in the future as well with community involvement projects. So I will sit and help with any questions that may be asked. So thank you all again.
Thanks.
So go ahead and open up to council. Any questions for Mr. Nemchek or our representative from Kimley Horn?
I have one for Mr. Nemchek, just to confirm. The soil was tested in 2017. That was by MPCA.
It was done by a third party under the supervision of the MPCA.
And so when you look at the map of Umore, was it specifically the area that we're talking about?
That was part of it. They investigated the entire Umore site,
Okay.
all 5,000 acres or so in Rosemount.
And there was no contamination on this portion?
None found that rose to the level that exceeded residential standards.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Yeah, yep, I've got a few. There was a note in here, information in here, the cost of the water line, there's a 16-inch water line that's gonna be required. Explain, I think they're responsible for 75% of that. Normally, with a developer and in a situation like that, is that normal? Where the owner developer is responsible for paying for that? Or if you maybe can speak to that?
Yeah, I can take a stab at that, I think. Mayor, council members, yes, development pays for itself. That's the standard in Rosemount, right? So this development is paying for the utilities that are required of it. We have asked them, as part of the city project, to upsize their utilities, and so then we will pay for that delta that they do not require for their facility. But then what that does for us then is builds out a more robust utility network to allow for future development down the stream. Nick, do you want to add on that?
Well, I might add some clarity on components here. The two street segments that were spoken about, Audrey and Blaine Avenue, they have full-blown utilities underneath them that are constructed by the developer as part of the requirements, just like any other subdivision or commercial development might occur. In addition to that, the city's working proactively to expand its trunk water system along the county road. That would in part help serve this property and others in the area with that growth in mind. And so there's, in addition to paying for the strictly development-related infrastructure, the developer has a cost share in that additional project that we're performing. And that is an unusual and over and above sort of circumstance that we don't see from place to place.
And I guess describe what's the benefit of that to the community? Because, I mean, it's a larger, my understanding is it's larger than normally would be required. It's 16 inches normally would be required. Is it 10 inch, 9 inch or something, right?
That would be under the streets that are adjacent
Okay.
to the project, the one that I'm speaking of.
Is the community getting a benefit to further to the east in terms of future development? Is that ultimately who's gonna benefit here?
The land in the immediate area and properties that are currently undeveloped to the eastern part of the city do all see a benefit from that expansion of the system. And with this work, we're able to accelerate the process of putting these things in the ground and activating them so that can enable that additional future activity to happen if interests are there.
So having that in place, future developers who are interested in the east side of Rosemount, they're gonna have an added benefit of this 16-inch water line already being in place. Am I understanding that correctly?
That would be fair to say.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, the gallons per day. I happened to catch a flyer that was out in the community. Reference to 450,000 gallons a day. My understanding is there's a requirement in the agreement with this owner that the maximum is 100,000. So we put into the agreement that they cannot use more than 100,000 per day. Am I understanding that correctly?
The water, it's a service level agreement that essentially defines response parameters for the city to keep the system operating. It's a sensitive site to water use, but also defines a capacity allocation. And the 100,000 gallons is what you're referring to there. So
Okay.
That's what the maximum is that would be expected to be used any given day of the year.
And what are they expecting? And maybe that's a question for, maybe you can speak to that. What is the expectation of gallons per day?
More like 15,000 gallons per day.
15.
So it's not, yep, so there's a higher allocation, but with the current system that's planned, it is a very, very low water use, as we've mentioned, that is equivalent to a couple restaurants,
Yeah. The equivalent of 2 restaurants.
like 2 Applebee's, call it.
So we've got 280 acres here. If we didn't develop it with this project, and instead there was 2 restaurants, and there'd be a whole lot more. There'd be potentially residential in the places where there wasn't contamination. You'd have other retail, you'd have you have a hotel that's gonna use, so just 2 restaurants.
Yep, so it's a lot
Is the
less
equivalent.
dense water use than you would typically see on a site of this size.
Okay, all right,
Just-
thank you.
Just as a piggyback on it, could you share, obviously the 450 came from somewhere. Has the industry, the data centers gone through a transformation in their ability to use less water? Because I know that facilities like this are used in areas that are really struggling with water, like down in Arizona and out west. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely correct, Mayor. There are a number of different tactics for the cooling system for the servers. So there are some that are more water intense, and there are some that are much less water intense, like Project Bigfoot. So it's just a different equipment inside to cool the servers.
Thank you.
And how recent has that transition been occurring, I guess, in the industry? Are we seeing that over the last 5 years?
It's
10
been
years?
rather quick. It's been evolving. It's been evolving quickly. So it went from a highly water-dependent cooling use, and now there's a number of new technologies that are continuing to come out to reduce that water use across the board. But you know, different data centers, other data centers will use different type of cooling and still some more water intense than this one.
Thank you.
Maybe a couple more.
Back to you.
Okay, and then back in March of 2023, when we approved the PUD, there were a number of deviations or variances that were granted, that were approved. But now looking at it, when I look through the write-up, it looks like there's a number of those that we had approved, but they're not needing them. And is that because, is that because some of the feedback that we provided to them, the feedback that was heard from our residents, you know, did they make some changes that basically remove the need to have deviations or variances? Can you speak to that?
Well, the planned unit development process is often a negotiation, and we have a lot of conversations about what is reasonable or what sort of mitigations would be required for any sort of deviation. So some of them, like the communication towers and things like that, that was just their own, they wanted to have some parameters to design their site plan, but certainly some of the other ones, the setbacks and things like that, are a result of conversations and negotiations to kind of come to those standards for the site.
But as I'm reading it, they negotiated, dare I say, they negotiated a little harder back in March of 2023 to get the PUD approved. But then once they actually brought the project forward, a lot of those deviations they were asking for, they actually gave in and said, "No, what? I'll comply with what your typical regulations are."
Yeah, basically that's it.
And what would you say drove that? Why did they make those concessions?
Well, I think when we talk about other developments and things like that, what gets through the approval process more easily, which is things that are less of an ask, so to speak. You know, most applicants are looking to have it go smoothly and not try to fight things. And when they can make changes to their plan to accommodate, you know, they do.
But suffice it to say that they did make concessions on what we had authorized them to bring forward in part of their plan. So they have made concessions as part of, and a number of them. I'm looking at section, what's on page 293 here, A through I. There was a number of them that they went back to what they actually didn't use the deviation. So, okay. All right, thank you for that. And then my last question is, with the contamination on this 280 acres, there was the yellow dots, which were above standards for residential. So would that suggest in those locations that residential development would likely not be approved?
Those yellow dots were where samples were drawn, where the soil was within the parameters to allow for residential development. So
They
are
were within
it's
parameters
lower,
to
yeah.
do residential.
Yep, the yellow is simply where the samples were taken. The red is where they found contamination higher than would be allowed for residential. They went with residential just because it's the most stringent threshold. there. So the yellow shows where the samples were taken.
Yep.
The red is where the contamination was higher than would be allowed for a residential use.
So, again, I guess I'm not clear. Would a residential development be approved on
Yes.
that site?
Yes,
It
correct.
still would be,
Yes.
even there was contamination above that level?
There wasn't contamination above that
Below the
level.
level.
Can you
It was
show
below the level.
Red, yeah, the red are the trouble spots.
Yeah, maybe pull up that
Show
slide. I just want to make sure I'm clear on this.
Yep, yellow just tracks, while he's pulling that up, yellow just tracks everywhere where a hole was poked in the ground, and then red tracks where it triggered higher than residential. So spots you see yellow could have conceivably been approved for residential, with a whole bunch of other things being considered, just based solely on soil.
Okay.
Soil was clean enough in the yellow spots to handle residential.
So you can see there's some yellow samples that were taken here around where the Amber Fields development is occurring as well.
Okay.
So
So
I think yellow is maybe not the best choice of color, but yes, yellow indicates samples.
green would have been better.
Green and red for Christmas. There you go.
Well, and it's not a gradient. They wanted a straight threshold
Yeah,
of
so,
what
and,
would
and the
work.
reason that's important, I think, is, in reality, they marketed that property, the University of Minnesota marketed that property because they knew there was not contamination there. Now, in reality, the University of Minnesota could have held off and said, you know what, I'm gonna wait out, I'm gonna get more money, I'm gonna wait for a residential developer. Now, a residential developer, had they gone into this 280 acres, now let's talk about water usage, city services, traffic. I mean, let's talk about what that would, we still have a lot of property to develop. But if instead the University of Minnesota would have moved ahead and said, we're gonna market that to another residential developer, now we're gonna have, issues with a lot of those other questions that come up with the density of development, a residential development.
Certainly, a residential development would include a lot of city streets and city infrastructure, sewer and water to
And use of
serve all
water.
of those parcels.
Right?
And I would say that the site plan provided by the applicant is probably not the most intense use. They're leaving a lot of open land there that, any other developer would not do.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. I may have follow-up questions, but that's what I have for right now.
Looking to other council members.
Mine have been addressed.
Okay.
Mine's been addressed.
Same here.
All have been addressed? All right. Is there a representative from the university here? Yeah. Could you come forward?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. My name is Leslie Krieger. I am the Assistant Vice President for Planning, Space, and Real Estate at the University of Minnesota, address 319 15th Avenue Southeast, Minneapolis.
I called up just to provide some clarification, I guess, on, there's a lot of reference back to your website. And on there, the sustainability, sustainable community has been listed, which the university did not go forward with. But it seems to be creating a lot of confusion. I'm curious, at what point does the university consider that their market-driven approach now would better be represented on the website rather than that specific development? I'm just curious.
Mayor, council members, that is a good question, and we have updated our website to make it clear that that was a historical artifact of a planning done in 2008, and that the more recent and the direction from our Board of Regents enacted by resolution in 2015 was for this market-driven approach. So we tried to make it clear on our website that that is a historical artifact, and that where possible, we tried to still use some of those standards related to site planning and sustainability, and I think those are reflected in Bigfoot's site plan that you see here. We have a declaration of covenants and design standards associated with development on our sites, so that runs with the land, and that requires tree preservation, native plantings, those types of things that really are reflected in the City of Rosemount zoning code as well.
And I know there's been an extensive investigation around environmental on this, and there are some areas that are considered still hot, and they're certainly not for sale, as I understand it, and being addressed. Could you speak to a little bit of what your ongoing actions are? We had some people come to us and said that there was something going on your
Yes.
property and was concerned that it was related to this project, which I understand was not. It was part of your normal
That is,
annual.
Mayor, council members, that is correct. And so we have, on our website, we have an online document repository that includes every single environmental investigation, asbestos survey, everything that the university or other public entities have done to study the Umore Park site in its entirety. And so what you find there, the most recent and most comprehensive study were the 2013 and then the 2017 remedial investigations that were completed under the supervision of the MPCA. We started in 2013 with that remedial investigation, and at that point in time, we first came out and did we did an open house at the Armory for the community in terms of reviewing the work plan, and then came back and did another one when we had the findings. We did the same thing in 2017, which was more after the 2013 findings. The MPCA wanted additional soil borings and additional study, and that was the result, what came out of the 2017 remedial investigation. As part of that, the next phase of that is we're now working with the MPCA on some targeted locations to do the feasibility study, which will then look at what are the requirements to clean up based upon the land use plan that has been adopted by the city of Rosemount. What would be the requirements to clean that up, and what would those costs be? And that is work that we're doing with the MPCA currently for specific sites around Umore Park that will give us some additional information. And once we have those findings, we'll be back out in the community later in 2024 to present that work. In the case of the work that was done this past August, September, as you noted, we do have an ongoing budget for asbestos remediation. And so we have an asbestos survey, which is also part of that online document repository that identifies where we have found asbestos throughout Umore Park. And we have a budget every year to target specific areas for cleanup. And the area that was in question is just south of the Bigfoot site. It's on university property and will continue to be on university property near some of our research fields. And that was one of our targeted areas. And we work through our work plan and just in terms of a budget every year to do asbestos cleanup because it is extensive across Umore Park.
And that does include some of the buildings out there, if I understand, some of the exterior siding?
I'm not, Mayor, council members, I cannot speak to the specifics of the exterior siding. We do have foundations, historical foundations where there is asbestos around those foundations. There are other transit piles, those types of things. So we have that extensive survey, and again, we have our experts on university staff that are experts in asbestos and hazardous materials, and they have a work plan for just working through and continuing to make progress on asbestos remediation on an annual basis, based upon where it is in location to, even though that Umore Park is considered private, and we ask that the public does not trespass on the site. We recognize that with the roads that people do drive through the site, and so we do try to target areas that are closer to roadways first and foremost, so that we can try to mitigate any public exposure.
I appreciate the comments regarding the trespassing. I know it's easy to kind of get into that area, but it is posted. I've seen the no trespassing signs, and not to disturb some of those piles, like you say, can contain things like transite, which by themselves are inert until you actually break them and allow it to get in the air. Anything else you'd like to say about the U's mission here as we change Umore from its research to more of a market-driven community?
Mayor, council members, I just want to say thank you to the staff that have been working with the university over the last number of years. I've been in this role for 5 years now, and working with your community development agency and your public works folks and the city manager, city administrator to really work together in terms of the future development at Umore Park. And I think we see that nicely with the Amber Fields development and really making sure that the university supports the city of Rosemount's long-term plans and land use plan for the area. and we work very closely together to make sure that we are supporting, that we're being a good neighbor, and that we are doing what is in the best interest of the city of Rosemount.
And we certainly look forward to seeing more of that property become usable and put into use for our community. Thank you.
I got a follow-up question. I just, if there was something, because I think there's a lot of concern about, from the community, about the testing that was done, environmental testing that was done. And if something would occur on the site, if this moves forward and the University of Minnesota is no longer the owner of this property, what's the remedy for the buyer if there was some contamination on the site that wasn't identified as part of the testing?
Mayor, Councilmember Essler, the MPCA would get involved, and so we are selling the site as is, and it's based upon the extensive, the buyer had access to all of our investigations that are part of the online repository, and that is the complete, that is everything that the university has related to our investigations. The buyer also conducted, it's our understanding, the buyer also conducted their own investigation of the site and did their own soil borings and analysis as well to ensure that they were comfortable with the site as it was. If there were contamination found, then they would end up needing to, they would have to work with the MPCA related to that.
And it would be their responsibility to address it?
That's correct.
Okay. Thanks. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I have Kimley Horn come forward again, Tracy, just to reiterate that point, I think, from the developer's point of view, maybe just restating again, that's your understanding as well. If you find it there, you're responsible for it.
Yeah, yes, Mayor, council members. Like Leslie mentioned, we did also conduct environmental site assessments and found the site not to have any recognized environmental conditions that were of concern. So that is my understanding as well, that if anything were to be found, we would work directly with the MPCA, but we do not anticipate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other further questions for staff? You more or Kimley Horn? All right, so at this time, we would normally take a vote directly. As I indicated earlier, we will be opening up the floor for public comment. Again, just to reiterate, the process is all public comment is taken at the Planning Commission. This seems to be generating a lot of angst in the community. We know that there's a lot of misinformation as well. Hopefully the information that's been provided, we've seen this, we've seen comments, emails from everyone. So at this time, I will be opening up the floor. Anyone wishing to add anything additional to the comments may do so at this time. I would ask to limit your enthusiasm for comments that are made. It can be considered a little put-offish if you've got people that are on the opposite side of the comments that are being made. And we do want to be welcoming to all of our residents. So with that, I am putting a limitation on the total time at 25 minutes, up to 25 minutes, 3 minutes per individual. And you know, if you have questions or comments, we will not be answering the questions because we believe that for the most part these things have been answered, if not previously in the Planning Commission by the presentations given to this evening. So with that, I'll open it up now at, I'll say it's 8:14. For the next up to 25 minutes, anyone wishing to speak may do so. Please state your name, address, and your comment.
My name is Marla Lindner. I'm at 15156 Eddy Creek Way, Apple Valley. Good evening, council members. Through the past few weeks and months, we have been researching and sharing with the commissioners and you the approval of this metadata center sale and development on possible contamination soil will have huge atrocities. Tonight, I'd like to talk about consciousness and having a moral compass. Two of the definitions of consciousness, being awake and aware of one's surroundings or the state of understanding and realizing something, The definition of moral compass is the ability to judge right and wrong and act accordingly. Approving the Meta data center sale with the University of Minnesota will have grave consequences. Mind you, Meta is currently in a federal lawsuit with approximately 41 states, ours included, based on harming and violating our children's rights. Meta is also in a New Mexico lawsuit, which has recently moved to federal court for connecting children with sexual predators, child sexual coercion, and trafficking. The University of Minnesota, who educates our children, and a sale with a corporation who are known to be child predators, is a recipe that one's consciousness cannot comprehend. Even our Attorney General Ellison said, quote, "It is my job to protect Minnesotans, especially the most vulnerable. Meta is very intentionally trying to manipulate our children and teens to spending as much time on their platform as possible. Despite knowing this is causing harm, Meta's efforts to addict our young people and sacrifice their well-being for engagement is disgraceful, predatory, and illegal," end of quote. If you are planning to approve this sale, I hope you ask yourself if what you just did violates the oath you took to your community. If you have harmed humanity, including our children, our environment, the animal and plant kingdom, and if hosting a predator is even legal, and to question yourself if you lack having strong moral compass. Because approving this sale will not only show your true character, but your greed for money and power. You're supposed to be working for your community and not for corporations that take until our energy life force completely evaporates. If one truly holds the capacity of a strong, virtuous consciousness and moral compass, you will make the right decision and vote no to this land sale with a corporation that is dirty. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Again, please refrain. Next, please. If anyone wishes to, you may stand in a queue so that more people, you get more time if you wish.
Jeff Gorman, 13533 Delwood Way. And I second that lady that just came up here and spoke. The question I have after listening to this and listening to the last city council meeting is if Mike Lindell wanted to build a 280-acre operation, would the University of Minnesota sell that land to him or work in partnership with Mike Lindell to build his My Pillow? I don't think you would. My question is, why is Rosemount rolling out the red carpet to an organization that's had nefarious practices with surveillance? And this has been proven. I'm not saying anything that's not true. And it seems to me that this is a moral question that we should be asking ourselves in this community. I've lived here for since 1991. And I'm very concerned about this. The morality question has to come into play above the business part of this. I know last week we talked about increasing our tax base. Well, I've been in here, like I said, since 1991. My taxes have been going up. Even with the thousands of homes that have gone in over the past 5 years, I have not seen a decrease in my tax base. And I think that we as citizens deserve the right to see the transparency between the engineering proposals that's coming up, the water intake that this organization is going to be using. I heard that no more than a couple of restaurants, but I think we need to really examine that because we talked about salvaging our water base here for the past 5 years. We're on water restriction, but yet we continue to build these communities, and this is no community. I don't even know what these brown buildings are going to do. But I do know Meta, Facebook, has had a history of nefarious practices. And we really need to look at that. We have Lifetime Fitness coming in, which is great. There's no ideological presence with them. But with Meta, they bring in their ideological way of doing business. And it's not good for this community. We've seen enough of it. We need to get out of that and get together and work together to work with businesses that are wholesome and that provide a product for each of these citizens, not something that is going to be encased in 280 acres with a 10-foot high fence. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to come before council? Again, you're allowed to queue up to allow more people to speak if they wish.
Good evening, Mayor, Councilman. I'm Susan Ferozzo, 1646 240th Street West, Farmington, Minnesota. I came here tonight to talk about the sound pollution that these data centers create. I have heard some of the persons that are presenting this say 50 decibel, and my research has shown 78 to 80 decibels. And I did send you an email about that the iCloud is not silent, and it was a 5-year study. And right now, I would just like to play, it's a 2-minute, it says it better than I can say it, and it was done just a year ago, so, and it's about the sound and the residents in Virginia with their data center. It was on KSTP Channel 5 or whatever. It does talk about the generators, how loud they are, and they sound like a motorcycle. Well, this doesn't, but my articles talked about a motorcycle running all the time.
We're not able to hear any of that.
It's just...
The County Board of Supervisors to do something about it. Katie Barlow was there with what they had to say.
Homeowners that live about 2 minutes from where I'm standing, that live right here by what you can see is a pretty sizable Amazon Web Services data center next to me, say that the constant noise from this building has been, quote, catastrophic, causing migraines, preventing newborns from being able to go to sleep, adults too, and residents say that it has generally prevented them from being able to enjoy the quiet life they thought they were settling in for here in Manassas.
Many people are experiencing sleep impacts caused by Amazon's noise. Sleep disruption has increased their stress and anxiety levels. This irritating sound has exacerbated migraine issues and in one case is contributing to a worsening symptoms for a rare autoimmune disorder. One migraine sufferer replaced every window in his home and was forced to move the nursery for their newborn to the basement to protect their infant. All right, I just want to make sure everybody's all set to go.
Today's message was aimed directly at government officials here in the county. Residents said they have spoken to Amazon about internal fixes, but they want local officials to recognize the burden the data centers have created. That includes amending the Prince William County noise ordinance that was adopted in 1989 and has not been updated since. Residents showed me noise decibel readings they took on their own. They showed me readings during the day and night that exceeded what's allowed under the county ordinance.
In an article by Harvard Medical School, they state that noise pollution is more than a nuisance, it's a health risk. They go on to state that research has shown noise pollution can cause or worsen cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, sleep disturbances, stress, mental health, and cognition problems, the list goes on, including memory impairment and attention deficits, childhood learning delays, great to have next to our schools, and low birth weight. Do we really want those health risks next to our residential homes and our children's schools? No.
Spencer Snackert, who you just heard from, was actually visiting Prince William County from the neighboring Fauquier County, where Amazon apparently and reportedly has
Please wrap
eyes
up your
on
comments.
building.
Please wrap up your comments.
Eyes on
Okay, I just got to try to get this turned off. Okay, well, I know there's a lot of residential homes just on the other side of 42 there, and there's a lot of homes there, and I'm wondering, are you going to be able to do a study ahead of time to check out the noise and what this is going to do to all those homes? These people spend their life savings to build and live there, and I believe that you should not even be able to vote on this tonight. You need to, have transparency for the people here and the people that have their homes there. What if they all have to move? Are you going to have the people that are building this buy their homes and buy them new homes? I mean, this is a major issue for the people that live there, that built those homes. What if it was your home? And I just wanted to bring attention to you about this sound pollution. It's a really big deal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
If that's true about sound pollution, I just want to say that this is going to be pretty much next door to ISD 917, which is a special education.
Mayor, could we grab her name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy Pritchard, 15703 Crystal Path, Rosemount.
Thank you.
Kimberly Horn, I had a couple questions. I don't know if I can ask those.
You can state the question, and if...
She was stating that we're going to use less water, but I didn't hear maybe a percentage, how much less are we going to use with this new technology?
I understood the number was given out at 15,000, although the agreement is that they have to stay, the city has to be able to provide up to 100,000.
Yes, way below.
Okay, thank you. Kimberly Horn stated that this will be a significant financial investment, yielding a substantial increase to the tax base and spurring economic development in the area. This project will employ 50 people. I did not hear one word from Rosemount about how this data center will be holding artificial intelligence. When it comes to artificial intelligence, and after considering both job creation and job loss, the total overall job loss will be somewhere around 30% will be lost to artificial intelligence, is what they're predicting. 30% of Rosemount would be over 8,500 tax-paying citizens would lose their jobs here in Rosemount. In Dakota County, over 135,000 residents would lose their jobs to artificial intelligence. I think that's something we should at least talk about a little bit. December 3rd of this year, just a couple weeks ago, Meta's former tech chief, Mike Schrofer, had this to say, quote, "The reason we started an artificial intelligence lab a decade ago was that it was very obvious that this technology is going to be commercializable within the next year's time frame." So I think that we should start talking to the public about how that could affect us, especially since we are your tax base, and if it's going to affect our tax base, I'd at least like to have a discussion on that. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Hi, Mayor, Council. My name is Amanda Taylor. I live at 1805 Stanford Avenue, St. Paul. I am with an organization called Greater MSP. We're the Regional Economic Development Partnership for Minneapolis-St. Paul, the 15-county metro area. I lead our business investment team. And so I work with cities like the city of Rosemount, cities across the region, counties, the state of Minnesota, to support business growth. And our mission at Greater MSP is to accelerate economic competitiveness for the region and inclusive economic growth. So supporting business attraction and expansion is a core part of our business, a core part of what we do to grow a stronger, more resilient economy. And there are targeted industries that are focused on in the region and the state, including data centers, because these are industries that create family-sustaining wage jobs and have positive economic impact to community and to the state. We work very closely with city staff on projects like this and did work very closely with the city of Rosemount in supporting this project. And so I do want to thank staff for all of their time in supporting this project and supporting economic development in the region. The city of Rosemount is critically important to our regional economy. We're so excited to be focused in this part of the region and seeing so much opportunity here. The UMOR site, the University of Minnesota, Xcel Energy are all incredible partners in supporting economic development in the region, and it's really important to the state. So I'm here to show my support for this project, show my support for the City of Rosemount staff, and for economic development that is happening here. We do thank you for all that you're doing. Thanks.
Could I have a follow-up with you, since you've indicated that data centers are a strategic focus of Greater MSP and the state. You're hearing some of the comments tonight. Is there anything that you could offer as to why data centers we believe are good for the state?
Well, first and foremost, they're a critical infrastructure to our economy. The number of data centers that are going to be needed to power data storage needs as technology is becoming more a component of our economy means that there's just going to be more of them. And this is an industry that we've been focused on for over a decade. In fact, the state has a sales tax exemption program specifically for data centers to incentivize their attraction to the state. So it has been targeted because they do create family-sustaining wage jobs. They have low impact to city services because they have not the same kind of utility capacity requirements and job intensity on the site that they occupy. They do utilize infrastructure, and so that's really important. And so Xcel Energy's partnership here is really quite important. But again, the jobs that are being created, both the permanent jobs for those folks who are in the facilities, as well as the construction labor that will be created for the couple of years that it will take to build this facility, is really touching many different components of the labor market. So, there are a lot of opportunities right now to grow the construction labor force in the region, and we're working with other partners to make sure that we have a strong construction labor force and making sure that folks have equitable access to those kinds of jobs. So it's a really exciting job creation opportunity, as well as a critical infrastructure to growing the economy and diversifying and making sure that our economy remains resilient as the economy changes. And the economy is changing. So we want to make sure that Minnesota has the most competitive economy and is resilient to changes, and data centers are really core to that.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Sharon Brown. I live at 4425 Summer Court, Eagan, Minnesota. And there was a little question earlier about those of us who are not residents of Rosemount, but as I stated in earlier meetings, my kids went to the school at Rosemount High School. What I didn't tell you was I put hundreds of hours of volunteering so I'm very much a part of this community, and I feel very much a part of this. I do not live there now, but I was part of. My kids were I was in the booster club for football. I put 300 hours in the senior party that everyone, if you guys know about, at the end of the year, the kids go to a senior party, and I was this decorating chair, which takes approximately 300 hours worth of volunteering from year to year. So my son is an Eagle Scout, by the way. He did go on to do better things. 6 years in the military in an honorary Air Corps, and my kids were both, as sophomores, invited onto the National Honor Society. So this bad mama would like to speak.
You get my shaming comment back.
Okay, so yeah, your comment, you might want to take that back. We did do fairly well with our children. I don't know. Nobody's perfect. But yes, my kids did go into the UMOR property. I can attest to that. And right now, what I'd like to say is, I respect all you people who have done a lot of research and a lot of time in this activity. You can see there's a lot of care within this community as well as this panel. My question to you, I don't even live in Rosemount, right? But why am I at this meeting? Because I care about you and your family, and I can sincerely say that. I really do care. I don't live here. My kids are out of state, as a matter of fact, but I have a vested interest in this community because I've spent time in my children. You've given to me with my family. So I am giving back with my time and my concern. And I want to ask you the question, those of you who are representing Facebook, representing the Energy Department, those from Minnesota, the University of Minnesota, maybe some of us don't live here, but are you willing to raise your family and your children? I'm going to tell you, those who have not been at this meeting, my son came home with his friends with buckets of lead. I couldn't carry them. They were marble-sized pellets. And the children, I call them children, high school students, like to come home with souvenirs from Umore Park. Yes, they go in with their snowmobiles and their motorcycles and their cars, and it's a cool thing as a high schooler. We all were there one time, right? We all went to high school and did our little mischievous things.
Ma'am, please wrap up the comment.
Okay, I want to ask you, are you willing to put your family in this area? What about the lead? What about the lead? If there's not extensive amount of work cleaning up that soil, what about the particles? You could send 10 teenagers in there right now, and I bet you they'd come up with some better samples than some of the people that have done it. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kimmy Kiefer, 3245 145th Street, West Rosemount. I kind of would like to just express my empathy for those people who have purchased new homes east of town. Most of them are not my age. They're my daughter's and son's ages. And one of my children, my daughter, lives over there. And it's kind of sad that they've paid, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 for these homes. And then they're going to be hearing these noises that, actually my grandson is on nonverbal. And so, excuse me, when we talk about the side effects of what could happen, it just makes me sad. And they're looking already to move out of Rosemount because they know what's going in. It'd be different if it was something that was going in that wasn't what it is going in or possibly going in. But on the outside of our town, I love our town. I've lived here for 37 years. There's a sign that says the word of the month is compassion. I'm just asking you to think about that word. Thank you. God bless you and Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie Barner, 9836 Deloria Trail, Inver Grove Heights.
Where? Excuse me?
Inver Grove Heights.
Inver Grove, thank you.
I have just some important questions for you all to think about. This is such a huge project, and you hear that people are even considering moving out of this area because of it. This is quite big, and my questions to all of you, number one, do you guarantee that Meta will not track, surveil, monitor the good residents of Rosemount or those in neighboring villages or neighborhoods? Second, do you guarantee the loud, low-frequency sound from the data center that runs 24/7 and can be heard many hundreds of feet away won't cause Rosemount residents stress and anxiety? And the EMF or the electromagnetic frequencies won't cause harm? And another question for you to think about in this process: why does it feel as though the Rosemount community is not being listened to? You have these people coming in from Minneapolis. We feel they're being listened to. You have the U of M representative talking about how that their sustainable development that plans for that sustainable development are not in place, and now it's a market-based approach. Well, I'm here to show you that this was the 2013 plan. And if you want to look at that, that's very similar for this sustainable community to scenario 1 in the 2018 AUAR plan, and that's the market-based approach. And you see a village center in the center there and a village center in the center here. And then you go to scenario 2, similar plan, still bringing 25,000 to 35,000 people into this dense area, over doubling the size of Rosemont. You go to scenario 3 in the 2018 AUAR, same similar plan, bringing in this many people to a densely populated area. Now, you guys say you have an updated plan, and interestingly enough, these scenarios are not in that plan. And now you have this plan, and interestingly, you have an agricultural research here, and you have more land here. My question to you guys is, are you being transparent? Is this now the plan? Have scenarios 1, 2, and 3 suddenly gone poof? That's what it looks like from the plan, but actually this plan is the transition plan to scenario 3. So in a sense, you're giving us a current snapshot in your 5-year AUAR plan, and that is completely unacceptable. We as a community, as a Rosemont community, the people here, the people in this area need to be part of the planning, and we're telling you we need to put a pause on this plan. We need to be involved, integrated into it. We do not need dense housing in a tiny area with its own school, commercial zone, transit system, and that's what I'm here to tell you.
Please wrap up your comments.
Thank you.
One last final comment, just because this is critical that you know. Environmental law prohibits piecemeal review of the significant environmental impacts of a project. This standard is consistent with the principle that environmental considerations do not become diminished by chopping a large project up into many little ones, each with a minimal impact on the environment, which cumulatively may have disastrous consequences.
Thank you.
And that's for legal, by the way.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. I'm Bill Drosty, 13501 49th Street, West Rosemount. I live in Amber Fields. And, you know, I was past mayor, currently Dakota County Commissioner. But I'm here this evening, strictly speaking, as a property owner in Amber Fields. Now, Carol and I moved to Rosemount in 1989, bought a home in Country Hills and owned it through last year and sold it. And this year I was looking for a townhome in Egan, Evergrove Heights, and Rosemount. Needless to say, the market's very tight. Not much was available. But I did come down to a final choice, buying a new home, and because of the walkability of this community, trails and parks, the significant open space, the continuity, etc., with neighbors is why I've purchased the second investment in Minnesota, and both times it's in Rosemount. And I somewhat felt, after watching the meetings the last couple months, I need to come in here and defend the neighborhood and people. A couple moved in over the weekend and one today, that if they saw some of these meetings and even comments just previously, it's not very welcoming to move to Rosemount with some of the misinformation and comments. And I'd say, Mayor, when you referenced what was on their University of Minnesota, the confusion that's out there, the only thing that is being built out there is the PUD that was approved by the city, that the Maplewood Group designed and brought forward at public meetings. I think it was 2-3 years ago. The second comment I'd make is just on data centers, and I have family. We used to live in Des Moines and lived there, and I'd suggest that you and anyone should go online, look at YouTube, and go Governor Reynolds and Tim Cook. August 24th, 2017, had a news conference. Apple is building a 1.3 billion 2 data centers in Waukee, Iowa, and Waukee is very much like Rosemount, grain elevator, small community on the west side of Des Moines. But in that little YouTube, the governor, who she is still governor, I don't know her personally, seems to be quite popular. She says, it talks about the why. And it's her comment from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, data centers on average bring, as they're constructed, 1,688 jobs. That's 78 million in salaries, 43 million in ancillary services, and about 10 million sales tax to the state. Subsequently, in years, once it's built, and it takes 2-3 years, to the local communities, it's on average about 157 jobs, 8 million in salaries, approximately $1 million in property tax. And just say, you watch it, it gives you a lot of the why, but predominantly in Iowa, actually in a news feed I saw 3 weeks ago, West Des Moines is getting the 6th data center. That'll be the 18th data center in the Des Moines area. And I will...
It's not 4 minutes. Well, you hit
okay,
it too early.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Bill. Are we done yet, Jeff? Yeah, we are over time. We are well
Over 25 minutes.
I'm taking one more comment.
I'll just be real quick, so if anyone else wants to come up here. I am at 1421 6 Azalea Path, Rosemount. Grew up here, spent decades here because I decided to come back. And my husband and I bought our first house here. And, you know, thank you, past Mayor Drosty, for sharing your thoughts, but I don't think we all share your thoughts. I think what they've said about Meta, all different sides, all different kind of people, do not agree that having that, welcoming that into our community is something that makes us want to stay here. In fact, my husband and I, when we see what's going on, it makes us almost like looking at what happened to Minneapolis. It doesn't make you feel the small town feel like when you're going down 145th Street West, thinking about Meta being right here. I think that's basics. That's not misinformation. That's just, you know, coming from someone who's trying to raise their family here. We want to leave because of changes like this. So I'm just sharing that to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That'll complete the public comment this evening.
Hi, my name is Tracy Killian, and I live in Inverville Heights.
I was closing public comment. We've exceeded well over. Thank you.
I only have questions. I just have questions, no comments.
Go ahead with your questions.
I haven't heard, how is the electricity being generated? What type of transmission line will be installed to the substation? How much are you expecting the renewable energies to generate? How much will the new plant use? What happens if the renewable energy cannot generate the electricity needed? And where is it coming from? And then will it also cover the expansion?
Thank you.
Thank you. Closing the public hearing, or the public comment portion of this, and we'll move it back to council. I would like maybe Kimberly Horn to come forward and respond to at least some of the questions that came up. I know you can't talk about Amazon, but maybe on how Facebook handles their noise was one item that I had picked up. And then, I don't know, regarding the electric, I believe that was in our reports, so I think those questions have been answered already, the last one, so please.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. In regards to the noise, like I mentioned before with the different cooling mechanisms, there is a wide variety of different strategies for data center. and generation and backup generators and whatnot. So anything that you read out there, you're going to find a wide array of information. Though the acoustical study that has been done for this particular facility in this particular site with the ambient noise that was monitored around it, so it was completely customized to this site, to the conditions, had it anywhere from 2 to 15 decibels below the state requirement. And that is 50 dB at residential properties. So it is operating in 35 up to high 40s. And for some context, a 50 decibels is like a quiet conversation. Once you get down into like the 35 area for decibels, 30, 35, that's a whisper. You can't hear it. And with this being on County Road 42, there's far more noise that's generated from the roadway traffic and the high speeds.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you wanted me to address?
I don't know if staff caught any other questions.
I think we addressed
that-
water, we addressed power.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, comes at that time when we're going to look at recommended actions. With that, I'll open it up to council to make any comments that they wish. Start here.
I'd like to make just some remarks. Obviously, we don't take any development project lightly, this one or others. And those of us here on the council, I mean, we live here too. These projects affect us too, and we have our children here too. So as we embarked on this journey with a data center project, I did personally reach out to other communities that have, for their real life experiences with a data center in town. Bill mentioned Waukee. I started there. My sister, Kara, lives in Waukee, Iowa. I wanted to know, I visited her countless times. It doesn't impact her daily life. They're not miserable. They're very happy. But I contacted their mayor, who put me in touch with their city administrator, Brad Dietz. And he shared with me a lot of the original concerns they had there as they're constructing the Apple data center there, but also the mitigation strategies that they pursued. And every one of those is addressed in the proposal ahead of us today, and then some. This is incredibly thorough work that we have in front of us. My second call was to West Des Moines, Iowa. And there I spoke with Russ Trimble, the mayor of West Des Moines. And they have 5 Microsoft data centers there. I guess that's outdated. It'll be 6 soon. And what he also remarked about the economic impact of having the data centers in Iowa and in West Des Moines in particular, but about the positive ripple effect on other development projects in town in a good way. And his quote was, "A data center in your town is likely to be the single biggest shot of adrenaline you can give your city's economic future." And then my last phone call was to the city of Altoona, Iowa. Mayor Dean O'Connor is who I spoke with. They've had a Meta data center there for over 10 years. And he noted that their data center has been a much larger job creator than anticipated. They walked in thinking 55 jobs. They have hundreds of jobs there on that site now, 10 years later. The other things, Meta has invested in their town's infrastructure for the benefit of other businesses, but also for residents. They have been a minimal user of public safety resources in terms of fire calls, police calls, the things that kind of tax a city, and they're a very minimal, if any, user of those. He noted little traffic impact. I also have a friend in Altoona who lives in Altoona and drives by that data center every day to and from work. And, both she and the mayor said that Meta has been a great community partner, a business resident in their town. They have a technology grant program. In her day job, she works for a local university, and Meta is now one of their largest grant providers, being an incredibly good corporate citizen and a partner to them. And then finally, the mayor did say, you can tell anybody you've talked to the mayor of Altoona, and having a Meta data center in your community is a good thing. So I'm proud to support this project tonight, Mayor.
Other council members, comments? You go.
Yeah, I just want to speak to, I think what we've heard a lot through this process was we've been accused of not listening to the residents. And I want to address that head on. I think I've addressed it in prior council meetings as well, but I want to address it again. I really adamantly disagree that we have not properly engaged with the community. I also adamantly disagree that we haven't engaged in conversations and dialogue. I spoke with several of you that were in the room in the planning or in the open house several weeks ago, had specific conversations. And one thing I think I want to express is I think the individuals that have been in this room that have expressed their concerns, they had an impact on ultimately what this developer put forth. One of the items that I was asking staff about earlier this evening was back in March 2023, when we approved the PUD originally, there were a lot of variances, and through the process, there's just a lot of negotiation to try to create a win-win for both the developer, as always, and the community in which they're trying to build their development. So back in March of 2023, we landed in what we felt like was a very good spot. Public had input. Public had their input leading up to that. Ultimately, we approved a PUD. Then, 9 months later, 8-9 months later, they come forth with a proposal. It addressed a lot of those issues that you, the residents, had. And I don't want you guys walking out of here feeling like you didn't succeed. I think I will say, I think there's individuals in the room and others that just feel like the only measure of success is if we as a council say no to this project. I really believe that's the only answer. And at the end of the day, our job, and as representatives of you, the residents, our job is to make decisions for you that are in the best interest of the residents. And again, yes, there's a number of individuals that the only right answer is we say no. And I know a lot of you guys have mentioned maybe defer it, get more information. We could defer and get more information for 5 years, and the end of the day, you're still going to want us to say no. And our responsibility is to do our due diligence. The city staff has done an incredible job with the help of our attorneys. They've done an incredible job, the due diligence, the questions that were raised. We pushed them on it. We pushed them in working sessions, which you guys are all invited to. We've pushed them in front of the public, and we've really challenged them. And we've challenged the developer, and we've challenged their consultants. And because of the challenge that you guys gave to us, it's made a better project. And it's, you know, I look at the setbacks, the landscaping, some of the things that they wouldn't have to do. They are doing things above and beyond what we said they could do. So I think they're going to be a great community partner. I also am going to support the project, and it is because I'm interested in representing the residents of Rosemount, and therefore I'm planning on voting yes to this project. Thank you.
Other council members? We're good. Nothing to add? All right. First off, I'd like to thank the residents both here and online for their interest and engagement on this proposed data center in Rosemount. Part of our task as City Council is helping our residents understand the approval process, particularly in a growth-oriented community such as ours. We rely on the development team, including consultants like Kimley Horn, to share out what their project is and how they fit into the growth goals of our comprehensive guide plan and how they mitigate impacts of their development. We utilize our staff to ensure our standards, codes, and development plans are met. You have heard their report at both the Planning Commission and again here tonight, and their recommendations to approve. We have a unique landowner here in the University of Minnesota and the Unmore property. You have heard from them as they navigate their market-driven development as well. We have heard from many of you in public comment, online, at our community events, and in businesses as individual basis. We have gone through the Planning Commission, including updating their recommendations regarding the AUAR update. We are at that time, Council will be taking action on the 4 recommended actions. I want to reaffirm our dedication to an inclusive and transparent process. Your opinions matter, and we encourage your active participation. Together, we can navigate the challenges and opportunities of any project that comes to Rosemount. Thank you for your ongoing engagement and commitment to our vibrant community. So with that, I'm looking for...
Do you want us to four separate? Get over here?
Yep, four separate.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the Rosemount Technology Edition preliminary and final plats, subject to conditions.
And I'll second that. Roll, please.
Tyson?
Aye.
Bresky? Aye. Essler?
Aye.
Limpel? Aye. Weisensell?
Aye. Second motion.
I'll move to approve the Rosemount Technology Addition subdivision, water and wastewater agreements.
Second. Roll.
Bresky? Aye. Essler?
Aye.
Limpel?
Aye.
Weisensell?
Aye.
Tyson?
Aye.
Third motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution accepting the right-of-way easement from the University of Minnesota for improvements to Audrey Avenue.
I'll second.
Roll, please.
Bresky? Aye. Essler?
Aye.
Limpel?
Aye.
Weisensell?
Aye.
Tyson?
Aye.
Fourth.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the final site and building plan for the Project Bigfoot planned unit development, subject to conditions.
Second on that. Roll, please.
Essler?
Aye.
Limpel?
Aye.
Weisensell?
Aye.
Tyson?
Aye.
Bresky?
Aye.
All right, that completes 5-0 on the four motions for agenda item 9B. Staff, what are the next steps and what can residents expect to see going forward?
So next steps would be finalizing the plans to submit for building permit and grading permit approvals. So that's kind of the next phase.
And those will be actually internal, the permit approvals?
Those are approved internally by our building inspections and building official and fire marshal, as well as the engineering team here in the city.
And for the developer and the landowner university, you have a transaction, I guess, to handle before this gets that far. But with that, we've done our part in welcoming you to the community. Thank you very much. Again, to staff, council, those residents and non-residents that have participated in this. Thank you. That completes 9B. We'll move on to announcements. 10, I look to city staff, Mr. Martin.
Yeah, Mayor, I can maybe mention a couple quick items. First, just maybe a final plug. We've got our tour of lights up on the website, and so folks are looking for a final activity before the holidays this weekend. Jump in the car and check out some awesome holiday decorations. And maybe I didn't prep him for this, but Chief Dahlstrom, did you want to give maybe a recap? We had a really awesome Heroes and Helpers event, and just to remind the community kind of how that shakes out, and one of the more proud things that I think the police and fire department partners on, and if you could improvise a little on that, I'd appreciate it.
I like to improvise.
You do?
Yeah. It's like an old rap song. Yes. Mayor's, member of the council, we did have another successful event. We had over 30 kids attend this year. We were able to up the amount of money that each child was given. Again, they're selected from a variety of counselors, school leaders, local community leaders. Some of our officers make recommendations, and it's there's no application process. It's just when the leaders in our community see someone that needs a boost, they invite them to the project. So they had a great night going out. They were paired with either a firefighter or a police officer. We had the Dakota County Sheriff's Office, Rosemount Fire Department, and Rosemount Police Department involved. They got to have a personal shopper where they got to buy things for their own family as well as themselves. And it's pretty humbling. You see some of these kids that are focused on things like T-shirts and underwear, and it's really a nice night where they get to go out and maybe get a PlayStation game or something that's typically something that they wouldn't get. So a lot of smiles. We then brought them some food. Rosemount Carboni's helped us get that pizza. Hosanna was a nice host this year for games and present wrapping. We had our American Legion volunteers from Legion Post 65. McDonald's gave us a bunch of stuff. So the whole community, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some people because I'm ad-libbing, but there was a whole community that comes together for that night and super successful. And we've already got a bunch of thank you cards from some of those people that I'll send out tomorrow in my weekly update. So
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Chief. That's it from us, Mayor.
All right. And upcoming events, anything from council? Want to share anything? All right, then I'll go into The City Hall will be closed on the 25th and the 26th next week. The City Hall will also be closed on January 1st all day, and the next City Council meeting will be on January 2nd, starting the new year from work session at 5 to 7, City Council meeting at 7 to 8. And with that, I just want to reiterate all the people that have participated in our light display. It's nice to see the community, and when we do talk about hometown feel, it is nice walking and driving through some of our neighborhoods to see that. So appreciate all the residents that have participated in that, and for the rest of us to enjoy that. And with that, from the council, myself, thank you all for I think a great year. And Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, see you in 2024. We are, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Now we are adjourned. Thank you.